Furthermore, the closest we could be spiritually and physically to Allah is when we are in a state of purity and in the position of prostration in our prayers with our faces touching the ground. And that's the best condition to pray Allah, our Creator, as our father Abraham did when he prayed Allah for his firstborn Ismail, his only son, whom he loves the most of his children, because Ismail is Abraham's might and the beginning of Abraham's strength. Ismail is the excellency of the dignity of Abraham and the excellency of power of Abraham too. Abraham's prayer to Allah for his firstborn and only son Ismail, whom he loves, is very well recorded in the Holy Bible as follows. Then Abraham fell on his face, prostrated to Allah, and Abraham said to God, prayed to Allah, O Allah, that Ismail might live before you. The book of Genesis chapter 17 verses 17 through 18. And Allah answered his appointed leader Abraham's prayer for his beloved and only son Ismail, that Allah stated, and as for Ismail your son, whom I named from heaven before he was born, to give justice to the afflicted, persecuted, honorable Hajar. The book of Genesis chapter 16 verse 10 through 11. See also the book of Exodus. I have heard you, Abraham. I have heard your prayer. Behold, I have answered your prayer. Behold, I have already blessed him. I have already blessed Ismail even before he was born, and will make him fruitful and will multiply him exceedingly, as I have promised you in the book of Genesis chapter 15 verse 5. And I have just confirmed it to you, as in the book of Genesis chapter 17 verse 2. And as I have promised your wife, my servant Hajar, aforetime, the book of Genesis chapter 16 verse 10. He, Ismail, shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him the great nation which I, God, have promised you, Abraham, in the book of Genesis chapter 12 verse 2. See the book of Genesis chapter 17 verse 20. As part of Abraham's prayer to Allah, Allah also confirmed to Hajar, the wife of Abraham and the mother of Ismail, comforting her that Ismail is going to be the promised great nation of Genesis 12:2 of Abraham, that Allah stated, and God heard the voice of the lad Ismail, the son of Abraham, of his wife Hajar. Then the angel of God called to Hajar, the wife of Abraham, the mother of the great nation and the grandmother of the 12 princes, out of heaven, and said to her, what ails you, Hajar? Fear not. Don't worry, Hajar. Be happy, for God has heard the voice of the lad, the voice of Ismail, where he is. Arise, Hajar. Lift up the lad, the blessed Ismail, the great son of Abraham, and hold him with your hand, for I will make Ismail, the son of Abraham, the great nation, as God have promised Abraham in the book of Genesis chapter 12 verse 2 and chapter 17 verse 20. Then God opened Hajar's eyes, and she, my mother Hajar, saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water, and gave Ismail a drink. So God was with Ismail, with the lad, with the son of Abraham, who lived before Allah under his care and protection. And Ismail grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. The book of Genesis chapter 21 verses 17 through 20. Furthermore, wilders cannot even allege that the Allies during the World War were praying God to strengthen, support, or make Hitler or Germany victorious, nor could wilders allege that the Japanese in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, before or after they were annihilated by the USA atomic bombs, were praying God to strengthen, support, or make the USA or the Allies victorious. Even we, the American people, did not ask God to make the criminals, the true criminals behind the 9/11, strong and victorious. However, the criminals of the 9/11 pushed the government and made the ignorant among the public to rally behind them, and prayed the government to attack the Muslims in Afghanistan and in Iraq, who were proven to have nothing to do with the 9/11 crimes. Why should the Muslims be any different than the rest of the people when it comes to their prayers? Now, why should the Muslims not pray the Almighty God Allah to destroy their enemies and the enemies of Islam, the enemies of Abraham. Mr. Wilders, I have no problem if you pray God to destroy your enemies. If you did not pray already, why should you have a problem with the Muslims praying Allah for help? The prayer is a very clear sign that the Muslims are weak, so they pray the Almighty God, Allah, for help in the dire situations. I ask Mr. Wilders, why should the Muslims not pray Allah for help? I would also like to ask, who are the enemies of Islam, Abraham, the enemies of Allah, and who are the enemies of the Muslims that Wilders is very much worried that Allah may answer the Muslims' prayers and destroy such enemies? Does Wilders want to forbid the Muslims from praying to Allah, the Almighty God, the merciful Creator, the one who answers the prayers? If yes, is it forbidding the prayers one of the values of the fanatic extremist fundamentalist world civilized democracy Wilders is promoting? If Wilders does not believe in Allah, then he should also believe that the prayers of the Muslims are nothing but hot air and would not bring any good fruit that he should be worried about. However, I do not know what Wilders think about the Israelis' worship and prayer to the golden calf. But if Wilders believes in Allah and he is frightened and terrified that Allah may answer the prayers of the Muslims, then Wilders must join the Muslims in worshipping Allah, the one and only true God. See the book of John, chapter 17, verse 3. And there should be no fear, no terror, and no fitna. I believe that Wilders must ask the Imam who was praying Allah, if the Imam was praying Allah to fulfill part of Allah's will against the Israelis at the hand of that Imam and the worshippers, as God promised the Prophet Jeremiah in chapter 15, mentioned above. Mr. Wilders, if you think that the prayers of the Imam includes you for being an infidel, then you should worry about what God has for the heathen and the Holy Bible. Mr. Wilders, for your information, and because you are neither a child of Abraham, you are neither a true Muslim nor a Hebrew, then according to the Holy Bible, you are a heathen and subject to the Israeli slavery, that you could be enslaved by the Israelis at any time. See the book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verse 44. B. Then Wilders shows in his Fitna more pictures of some dead and injured without any respect to the dead or the injured or their families. Wilders is trying to cash on the criminal acts of the enemies of humanity, the enemies of peace that are the same actual criminals behind the 9/11 crime. However, Wilders did not show any pictures of any of the hundreds of thousands of the dead and the injured Muslims in the wars in Afghanistan, Bosnia, Palestine, Iraq, or Somalia. Is that because Wilders has strong respect to the dead and the injured children of Abraham? The Muslims and their families? But Wilders has no respect to the Jews or to the Christian? Or Wilders was trying not to expose the war crimes, the vengeance of the Lord, the Holy War articles against the children of Abraham in the aforementioned countries? Mr. Wilders, you do not need to worry if you are not a sworn enemy of Allah. You are not the enemy of Islam or Abraham and Muhammad. When it comes to the prayers, the Muslims, the sons of Abraham, must pray Allah as their father Abraham and his son Muhammad did. Who shuns the way of the righteous Abraham in praying Allah, except him who certifies himself, Mr. Wilders? See the Great Quran, Surah 2, Ayah 130.